Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets Bling. I am going to be sharing some of my favorite things with you, creating projects from thrifted items and kitties and puppies. In tonight's project, I will be using two things. I will be using this and this. It's gonna be simply magical. This is Paws with a Cause. I'd like to thank my fellow hosts, Monica from Up All Night DIY and Lisa from Our Gray House. I hope you like, share, comment, and if possible, donate. All donations go directly to Happy Tails Animal Shelter. Follow them on Facebook to find out more about this fabulous non-kill shelter. The link to donate is in my description box below, where you will also find the links to my host channels as well as this furry Halloween playlist. While I was thrifting, I picked up this little nugget, this little French bulldog. Isn't she cute? It's a girl. Yeah, it's a girl. I checked. And I've named her already. Her name is Francine, but I'm gonna call her Franny. And she is hollow. You can see how it's been molded and it's white. So Franny is obviously a ghost, but she's not gonna be just any ghost. She's gonna be something more than a ghost. She was $1.99 and I got her at Goodwill. I actually grabbed her in the toy section. I always, when I'm thrifting, I look through every section of the stores because you don't know where you're gonna find the little hidden gem, and this little nugget was in the toy section. And we are gonna make this little ghost into a witch. Even though Franny is a ghost, she has already passed, she has crossed that rainbow bridge. But don't be sad because she lived a very long, happy life with a wonderful family. But to this very day, she still goes trick-or-treating with them. I am using a paper mache cone that is labeled as a Christmas tree from Hobby Lobby, and I picked up just a bunch of these last year in clearance because, hey, you can use them for almost anything. Doesn't have to be a Christmas tree. Well, this is going to be the top of her little witchy hat. I just very carefully cut out the little slots for where her ears will go, and now I need to use that hat and a little plastic lid to create the base of her hat, the brim of her hat. This lid was the perfect size. Proportionally, it fit absolutely perfect with the little cone that I used for the top of her hat. So I drew a template, actually I drew two, but I'm cutting one out, and then I will take our little cone and I will find center and draw the center so I know exactly where I'm going to cut this center out because she's actually going to be wearing this little hat. It won't just be perched on top of her little head. Once I have designated where the brim of the hat will be, I cut an opening in the center from the exact middle to that edge of the line that I just drew. That way I can actually try it on her. I need to find where her little ears are going to poke through and the size of the hole I need to accommodate those ears. Once I can confirm that my template fits over Franny's little ears, I can transfer it onto cardboard. As I mentioned, this collab is to raise money for a fabulous animal shelter, Happy Tails Animal Shelter, and throughout the video, I'm just going to give you some visuals to let you know a little bit more about this absolutely wonderful organization. I used the same process to make the cardboard brim as I did the paper brim, and once I'm assured that it will fit, I will paint these two components. It's time to paint, and we are going to paint them in an ink chalk paint by Waverly. The color is a black. It's a witch's hat. It's gotta be black, right? I think it's time for a puppy break. Puppy break.
Who's a good baby? Who's a good baby? Who's a good baby? Who's a good baby? Dolly and Niblet. Yep. The last two of the litter left. Come get them and give them a forever home. Oh my goodness.
That was Dolly and Niblet, and they are both up for adoption. Yes, they are. Aren't they cute? Once I have completed painting my hat, both sides, of course, because someone might see it, and you know how I don't like anybody seeing stuff they shouldn't be seeing, I am going to glue the two components together. And I will be using Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue to make that happen. I put a little bit around the little tabs that I created. It's the same little wedges I cut on my paper template. I just trimmed them back a bit and folded them over. This is going to give me a way to glue the brim to the cone of the hat without seeing how it's glued together. Once my glue has dried, it's time for the Paws. I will be using a matte Mod Podge on the entire hat, even the underside of the brim. The entire hat has to be cohesive, and I don't want it to look like the underneath part is made out of a different material. But I think it is now time for a kitty break.
Hi, you could tell me hi. Here you are. Hi, can I say hi to you? Oh, everybody's so happy and you're so chatty. Tell everybody, say, come adopt me. Can you tell them? Philly, say, adopt me. Yeah, you're saying it, huh?
That was Philly and Buttercup, and they are both looking for their forever homes. Aren't they sweet? Once I get a nice healthy coat of the Podge on my little hat, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. How are we going to let it dry? It's going to dry thoroughly. This is one of the many spools of ribbon that I picked up at Joann Fabric when they were going bye-bye. Super sad, but hey, I did get some great buys. So what I'm going to do with this ribbon, which is elastic if you noticed, is glue it to the point where the brim meets the base of that cone. It's nice and dry and I can handle the little hat again, so I am going to be adding some little tiny itty bitty rickrack, some black rickrack, and this was another spool that I picked up for mere pennies when Joann was leaving us. Bye-bye, Joann. But back to my little hat. I have to figure out where I'm going to start it, and of course I'm going to start it in the back. And I am using an Elmer's glue. I love this glue. It is Craft Bond, an all-purpose glue. It dries clear and it remains flexible, which is a spectacular. So once I get my little rickrack on, I'm going to sit aside and I'm going to let it dry thoroughly. I will be adding a couple more embellishments to my little hat, but that'll be down the road because I need to prep the items that I'm going to be using to make the little extra embellishments that I'm going to be adding to the hat. And now for a cape. I feel like any well-dressed, stylish witch needs a cape. And Franny's no different. Baby girl want to look pretty, so we are going to give her a cape. I am not going to use fabric. I am using a paper towel. Yeah, they work great for everything. Cleanups, spills, cloaks, capes. They do it all. I actually find it's a great medium to work with. It played a major role in this video project. I'll leave the link in the description box. But yeah, if you ever get the chance, use these paper towels. They're flexible. They have a little bit of a stretch to them. And once they're painted and Mod Podged, you wouldn't believe the texture on these things. It's really incredible. Wait till you see how this looks when I'm done. After I finish painting the front side of this piece of paper towel, I let it dry thoroughly, and then I am going to flip it over and paint the back side. Every darn bit of it. I'll let it dry, and then we're going to bust out the Podge again. Yeah, the Podge is going to make a reappearance in this video. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. First, we need to cut it in the shape of a cape. It can't be in the shape of a paper towel because that's ridiculous. You should feel how hard this thing is. It is crazy. It is crazy. What I'm going to do is I am going to even off the one end where the little perforated marks are. We're going to get rid of those. And then I'm going to use my little template to cut a curve on the bottom part of this painted paper towel. I have the bottom lined up, so every bit of that curve is on the paper towel. If I need to trim more from the top, I can. That's no big deal. I fold it in half, I get it lined up, and then I cut that curve at the bottom of the cape. I trim up the sides and the top so it looks nice and clean. And now we are going to do some folding. We're going to do some pleating all the way across the top of the cape. And I will eventually give it a little fold at the top so she has some little lapels on her little cape. But right now I just need to form it in a shape that will go around her neck and kind of flare out around her fanny. Once I get it formed the way I want it, then I will Mod Podge it. This is matte Mod Podge, just like we used on her hat, because we want the actual finish to look the same on both pieces. I will Mod Podge the front and I'll let it dry, and then I will come back and Mod Podge the inside of her cape. You may not see it, but it also needs to be done. Once both the inside and outside are dry, I will give it that fold at the top that I talked about, which will create a collar and a lapel. I will run some wire in between the cape and the collar so you don't see it, and it will be the way that I will hold this on to Franny's little neck. After it is in place, I will Mod Podge it so it stays put. Franny needs a trick-or-treat bag if she's gonna get some treats and be able to take them on home with her. So we need to create one, and I want it to be cute. I have jumped into Canva and I'm using a stock trick-or-treat image and a couple of rectangles which I turned orange to match the trick-or-treat image, and some decorative corners which I changed colors and layered, one black and one white. I also added the word boo in 31 on the second image. These I had to make from scratch, and I had to add the teeny tiny little dots that made it look like a marquee sign so they would both coordinate well. Once I finished my design, I saved the image, I brought it back into Canva, scaled it down, and printed it off. Here are my images. You can see I made multiple sizes because I'm not quite sure what size I want to use yet, but I do know I'm going to make 2 little trick-or-treat bags for Franny. One's going to be a little bigger, one's a little smaller. She's going to hold one in her little mouth, the handles anyway. She's going to be carrying it around. She's got to walk, so she can't hold it in her paw, right? Once I get my images cut out, I can turn my attention to making a couple of cute little bags. Making a bag or a box really is easy, and I made my template in Canva just by using shapes. I used 2 rectangles, both the exact same size, and then I used longer rectangles for either side and for the part that is going to be going in between the 2 larger rectangles, which is technically the bottom. So once it's folded up, you'll have the front, the bottom, the back side, and both of the left and the right sides, and it will form a tiny little bag. It's going to be adorable. Now, if I had added a duplicate of the bottom onto the top, that would have given me a flap and I could create a box with that. But these are going to be shopping bags, basically little trick-or-treat shopping bags. No lid necessary. I cut the size template out that I want to use, and I use some painter's tape to tape it to some packing cardboard. This cardboard is brown on both sides, so I don't have to worry about any logos like when I use boxes from cereal and whatnot. I am using a straight edge and my ball sculpting tool to score lines everywhere where my bag will need to be folded or cut. Once all my lines are scored, I will remove the painter's tape and cut along the perimeter of the bag, following those lines that I scored. You may notice I also added a couple triangles on either side of the bottom because I want those to resemble those triangular shaped folds on the sides of a bag. Once my little rectangle is cut out, I fold all of my scored lines and I cut out the two sides of each triangular shape, forming a point on the bottom on either side. I hope that makes sense. Once those two little points are formed, I come back and I fold the sides, rescoring the lines if necessary. Now that my little bag has been cut and folded, it's ready for those cute little images. They're really sweet. I really like the way they came out. I'm using my matte Mod Podge to adhere them, and I'm also coating the entire box on the outside. I make sure the images are burnished down really well before I coat the top of them. Once both my little bags have their images and they are thoroughly coated with the podge, I set them aside to dry. Thoroughly. Now that my little bag is dry, I can fold it up the way it needs to be folded and I can glue it. Once again, I will be using the Elmer's All-Purpose Craft Bond. If you notice the little triangle piece, I'm gluing it there separately onto the side of my little bag, and that is going to give the illusion of a folded bag. I also creased the two sides to give the illusion that this little bag has one time been folded and maybe was in a stack of other Halloween trick-or-treat bags. I will hold the side in place until my glue sets up. And then I have a couple more details for this little bag to really make it look complete. I'm going to use my hole punch to punch those little half circles at the top, you know, where you put your thumb to make the bag open up. And I just think it gives it a touch of realism. So I will punch a half circle at the top of the front and the back. Now we need little holes to insert our little handles for our bags. I need 2 holes in the front and 2 holes in the back to insert my little handles, my shopping bag handles, and I'm designating where I want my holes with a pencil. Then I'm going to actually use my smallest, my teeny drill bit to create those holes because I don't want this ripping by trying to punch something through there. Once I have created my holes, I will feed some fabric covered wire through each hole to create my little handles. Now, we also need something to go in those bags. She's been trick-or-treating all night and she can't go home empty-pawed. So, of course, we need to fill them. We need to fill those bags with dog biscuits, maybe? Yeah. Let's make dog biscuits. I'm actually using these little tiny foam bones from the Dollar Tree. They came in a bag. I got them, I think, 2 years ago. And when I buy stuff, I tend to buy a lot of it because quite often you'll never see these items again. So if you see something you like and it's a good price, get it. You won't be considered a hoarder. You will be considered thrifty and smart. Yes. I'm thrifty, I'm smart. I have a lot of these bones and I'm going to be painting them in a lovely nutmeg brown, which is a folk art plaid paint, to resemble doggy biscuits. I want to take a second to introduce you to some of my own personal rescues. And yes, my cats that I have in my home are rescues, but I can't keep them all. And Happy Tails has found homes for these wonderful babies. I have been to many shelters in my day, but none are run as efficiently, as kindly, as cleanly as Happy Tails. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why me and all of my friends are doing this for this fabulous organization. Thanks, Dawn, for that public service announcement. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Thanks, Dawn. What I'm doing here is I'm using another Dollar Tree item, and this is just a little tiny bat tree topper. I picked this up last year. I just thought it was cute, and I knew at some point I would use it. I cut off the little cone that you would use to put it on the tippy top of a tree and bent the rest of the wire backwards against the bat. And now I'm going to use some dimensional paint and glitter, and this will become an embellishment for little Franny's cape. Here's my second thrifted item I'm going to be using. I picked this up for $1, this little pumpkin planter, and it has some crackling on it, and I am going to take care of that by giving it a quick sanding. This little pumpkin is going to be where Franny is going to be perching, and Nash is back again. He is getting so familiar with the house and my little work table, and not in a good way. Sometimes I get kitty hair and everything, but hey, that's par for the course because we all love our animals. So I'm gonna sand this little pumpkin down, and then we're gonna paint it. Yes, we are. I am going to use that beautiful spiced pumpkin paint that I have been using in almost everything lately because, hey, it's gorgeous and it's going to coordinate with my other decor items. This is that spiced pumpkin Art Deco Americana. Yeah, so pretty. I finished this coat, let it dry, give it a second coat, and let it dry thoroughly, and it'll sit and wait for embellishments. Yes, embellishments. So while I was painting that one black paper towel, I painted a second one, and I painted one brown because I'm going to make some little leather-like flowers. These are going to make them be cohesive. They will look like a set when I finish this. I cut out a very rudimentary flower shape. I just doodled it, and this little flower shape is going to be my template to make all of my flowers. I cut 2 of these shapes for each flower, and I will gently curl the little ends of the petals up, and then I'm going to add glitter in the center. So I will be making a little handful of black flowers and a little handful of brown flowers. You're probably asking yourself, why is she making brown flowers? Well, the brown is to pull the color from the little dog biscuits up through the rest of the piece. I am repeating that color for uniformity to make it all cohesive. Once my glue and glitter dry, I will use that same Elmer's glue to glue some of these pretty flowers onto Franny's hat and onto the pumpkin. I will also take some little wire and twist it to add some little vine detail to my flowers. Then I will paint my little wire vine in that black ink chalk paint by Waverly. Then all I need to do is assemble. Franny's done, and she's just howling to meet you all. Let's go check her out. Let's start with the back of her little hat and her cape. Look at that cape. Would you ever in a million think that was a paper towel? Doesn't it look like leather? It really looks like leather, and if you were to feel it, it feels like leather. I added some of the rickrack all the way around the perimeter of her little cape. So once again, it marries the cape to the hat. They look like a set. So pretty. Let's take a look at the front of her little hat. There's her teeny tiny little witch's hat with the elastic, beautiful elastic ribbon that has that velvet center around the base of the hat, and then the brim gets its own rickrack. And look at those pretty little flowers. Would you ever in a million really think those were paper towels? They don't look like it, and they sure don't feel like it. I hope you give this a try because you could probably make almost anything out of these paper towels. I think we need to take a look at her trick-or-treat bags and see how well she did this year. There's her larger bag, and it's chock full of doggy biscuits. How cute. I added a little twine bow onto the handle, and look at those flowers on the pumpkin. I know I will be making more of these flowers for other projects because it was so darn easy and very inexpensive. There's her other bag, her smaller bag, but it's just as full as the first, and she's holding it in her little jowls so she can roam around the neighborhood and get more treats. Here you get a good look at the little bat embellishment on her cape. She is so proud of her little cape and her hat. She is all ready for Halloween. And since she's a real ghost, when it gets dark, she has a special ability to light her way everywhere she goes. Franny glows. Yes, she does. I inserted a puck light into the pumpkin to illuminate her. I mean, if you watch my channel at all, you know my motto, so I had to stick to it. And isn't she adorable? How cute for a nightlight this Halloween. Franny is not spooky or scary at all. She's just super cute. I am in love with this little French bulldog. Thanks again to Monica and Lisa for joining me tonight in this very special video collab, Paws with a Cause. You'll find the donation link in my description box. And remember, all proceeds are going directly to Happy Tales Animal Shelter. Please like, comment, and share. If you share this video, it will reach more people that absolutely love animals. You will also find important links for Happy Tales as well as Monica and Lisa's channels and this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this very special video. If you did, give it a like and share it with as many people that you know that love animals, Halloween, and Halloween decor and thrifting. You can follow me on Instagram and don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. Ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos. Subscribe. It is a fabulous way to support my channel. But for now, this is Dawn and Franny with Shabby Meets Bling. I really look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you so much for watching.